right.
And this is round 2 here in Vancouver, British Columbia. On your left, we have Chase Moloney, and on your right, we have Trevor Reed. Interesting fact about these two, they are the best of friends. They're playing the exact same deck list today, and last year at this event, they finished first and second. Chase beat Trevor there. Chase has his Worlds invite this year. He top 8'd Worlds last year before losing in the top 8. He finished second in the senior division in 2012 Worlds in Kona, Hawaii. Trevor has also qualified for Worlds in 2013 and 14, but I don't think he has an invite this year. And they are both playing Seismitoad Crobat. Do you have any thoughts about the Crobat deck at all, Amelia?
It's interesting. I didn't expect Crobat to be as good as it is. It seems a little out of place in the big basics format, but obviously we've seen kind of a diversity from that recently, so
yeah,
I do think
definitely.
it's cool. It requires a lot of skill and thinking.
Yeah, I never would have thought that Crobat would actually have been super playable. And so, for those of you who missed that, we saw Chase start with a Jirachi. Excuse me, sorry folks. We saw Chase start with a Jirachi, super scoop it up, get a Seismitoad and a Crobat on the board. Laser, Quaking Punch, and that's all she wrote.
Yep.
So Chase is going to take the turn 1 win there.
Well, I guess that's a downside of Crobat.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you get donked. That would have been a perfect time for a what the.
We missed it.
Save that. So player shuffling up for game 2 already, very quick. I don't think these players are going to have any issues with going to time.
I do think it's interesting what players decide to play the Crobat with, since there's Seismitoad, Landers, and Wobbuffet.
Yeah, definitely.
So there's a lot of diversity even just within the one Pokemon line.
I agree. I think most people... I wouldn't say most people. I think the Landorus deck is probably the most popular version.
It seems to be moving away from Wobbuffet, which was very popular during Cities.
But the Seismitoad version, I think, is maybe the most outwardly good, if not the most powerful.
Yep.
And there's a Getsis. Reeling Chase is pretty poor hand, actually.
Yeah, that's rough.
A bunch of items and then double Verbank Lysander.
Yep, and the Seismitoad version is good against the Landorus version, for obvious reasons. So.
Absolutely. And so Trevor is going to go ahead and draw 3 off that Getsis. Getsis is a card we haven't actually seen played.
Yeah, I love Getsis. I'm a huge fan of that card.
I think it's awesome, but we've only seen it in Fringe play here,
Yep.
so it'll be interesting to see if they go deep with it in this tournament. And Ultra Balling casually discarding 2 supporters.
Who needs them, right?
Have to imagine
Chase doesn't have
a
any,
Zubat
so
here.
Trevor's just playing fair here.
Yeah, that's fair. It's a spirit of the game.
Yeah. So he grabs a Zubat.
Yeah, gonna go ahead and play the Zubat on the bench. Already 2 Seismitoads, so no reason to get a third. And it looks like Trevor has no energy and passes the turn.
Ooh, this is gonna be exciting.
Chase flashes a super scoop up. And yeah, it looks like Chase is gonna have to.
Trevor's very animated about it.
Chip the turn back. Yes,
Chase
like I said, these 2 are
up.
pretty much best friends, so it's pretty common for them to interact this way. That's a laser, that's a tails. I think. Ooh, Golbat. Gonna put 2 more on. And there's a Sycamore.
Discarding another ad.
And a
And
Zero
Jirachi.
And a Jirachi. I mean, I think he just has to do it here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And he draws a DC. He's not going to.
He's very far ahead of Chase here, even after discarding all of the supporters.
Yeah, I mean, the Ultra Ball on turn 1 after seeing Chase's hand is totally justified too. You have to Juniper there, so. Yep. And looks like Trevor just considering his options. I see another Golbat in hand, but I don't know if he had another Zubat. I imagine he would have played it if he did. There's a draw step. It's a Muscle Band.
Nice.
Oh yeah, Chase can go ahead and Lysander just to try and stall a bit, but he's going to have to pass the turn, going up to 70 damage. There's a Super Scoop Up. That's a Heads. Sending up the Golbat. There's a Water Energy preparing for potential Grenade Hammer later.
He just wins?
No, he'll do Grenade Hammer takes 2 water, so he'll just be doing 50 this turn, and then the Poison. Go up to 130. And Chase has this draw step to draw a supporter. He goes down in. All right, it's he's coming back.
All right, here we go.
A little bit of the slow roll off the end there. So Chase is just, I mean, Chase is in a poor position, but this end will mean a lot. If he can get some things set up, if he can draw Seismitoad, DC, he obviously isn't going to be able to get that Seismitoad out of the active spot. But if he can start getting a reasonable hand here and a reasonable board state, it'll just be he's behind 2 prizes. There's going to be another world. Unfortunately, it looks like he drew Zubat and 5 cards. He can't play Scoop Up though.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so he's just gonna have to. So he just has 5 cards in hand. He cannot play. Trevor casually drops 3 Zubats onto the bench. And there's second energy for Grenade Hammer. And there's a Sycamore just for good measure. It is like minorly important for Trevor here to play correctly, I think. Still play your Sycamores out. Like, even though you're 90% to win, you might as well not mess that up in any way.
Yeah. There's no reason to make wrong plays just because. So.
Yeah, and there's no reason. Like, game 1 finished so quickly, and game 2's going to finish quickly too. There's no reason to like save time and not play Junipers or whatever. Yeah. There's a draw step. It is a Sycamore for Chase. And
there's Toad.
Toad and a water energy. And then a bunch of cards he can't play.
Yep.
He can't evolve into Golbat, actually. Puts 2 on the active. Drops the Toad and the water. And we're getting at least a semblance of a game.
Yeah.
I think if you're Trevor here, you're so far ahead that I think you still have to Quaking Punch.
He actually gets that Quaking Punch for KO.
Oh yeah, sorry, you're correct.
Yeah.
Which just puts him in an even better position. Gets a knockout, takes a prize, and keeps Chase item locked.
Then he'll have potentially a ton of damage for next turn on that Toad. Does a 20.
Yeah, you can actually knock out the Toad through the Grenade Hammer with a bunch of Zubat activations.
And another laser or whatever.
Yeah, and I hope that Chase can pull something together to item lock Trevor, but that's not a given. And there's the knockout. Chase draws a Colress, it looks like.
Yep.
Gotta go ahead and draw 4 cards. So Chase is making this a game. I mean, for those of you unaware, how the Crobat decks work is that Golbat has an ability when he enters play, you can put 2 damage counters anywhere, and then Crobat has an ability that does the same thing but with 3 damage counters, and you play Super Scoop Ups and a thick line, as you can see on Trevor's bench, and just kind of be able to spread your damage around. Helps a lot with Seismitoad because Seismitoad damage output is relatively low, so you can just, add an extra 20, 40, 50 a turn. And it looks like Chase does not find the second energy.
And Trevor's going to KO this Zubat with Crobat power.
Absolutely, so that's Trevor is down to 2.
Let's start the Seismitoad there. Guess it doesn't
I think he's
matter,
trying
but
to win because he can go.
yeah.
Yep, that's the game.
Yep.
So he drops the Golbat, puts 2 damage counters on Chase's active Seismitoad, and then is able to Grenade Hammer for the knockout. And 2 quick games that we played, I think, maybe 10 turns in that
means
whole
we're in
thing.
for a great game 3, right?
Well, it's not how it works exactly, but we can hope. For those of you who are wondering who else is in the tournament or how that's going, you can check out our Twitter page at twitter.com/OTBPokemon. It has the entire pairings for each round, and I'll continue to put those up all round. So go ahead or all tournament, excuse me. So go ahead and follow that. As always, On the Bubble is brought to you by TopGutCentral.com. You can head over to TopGutCentral.com and use the promo code BUBBLE to get 10% off your order. They have Pokemon single, sealed product accessories like sleeves. They have the playmats that you see in front of you. Basically anything you want, other games as well, general gaming accessories, whatever you'd like. And players setting up. Haven't gotten too big of a chance to look at the metagame at the tournament. These rounds have been going pretty long, but I do know that they're low amount of Rizian, low amount of fairies. There is a Gengar in the field.
Yeah.
Won't reveal who's playing it, but there is a Gengar sitting at 1-0 that seems pretty spicy. You might try and get him on camera later. I imagine the Flareon deck is probably pretty popular here. Generally, this area I think has a big fan of those kind of decks. See Chase putting a Seismitoad meme on the stream. We normally don't allow memes on the stream, but we are in their home country, so I guess we'll
They're the champions.
allow it. Yeah.
You know.
Chase Moloney, actually, like I said before, has his invite, and he's going for the top 16 North America slot. Has a reasonable shot of doing it as well. Chase, I think, is quickly ascended from, he's only been in Masters this is his 3rd year in Masters, and he top 16 Worlds in 2013, only losing to Seismitoad. And like I said, last year he top 8'd. So he's put up some very impressive results, and I think it's pretty clear that he's the best player in Canada, and I think you can't really get away with saying that he's worse than top 5 or top 10 in the world.
Absolutely.
Like Chase is absolutely on fire.
He's also extremely consistent.
Oh,
which
absolutely.
is one of the biggest factors I point to when trying to, make a top X player's rank.
Absolutely.
So.
I mean, his past 3 years Worlds finish are 2nd, 9th through 16th, and then 5th. So.
Yep.
And I mean, he's really young too, so he still has a lot of years ahead of him.
Yep. Starts off with an Ultra Ball, discarding Trump card and regular Lysander. Gonna grab a Toad, I'm sure. Yep.
Yeah, starts with Zubat, has to get the Toad here. Pretty. I wouldn't call the deck linear, but I do think that kind of the big decisions you're going to make and the big skill testing is going to be in building the deck and also in choosing where to put your Golbat and Crobat abilities. Usually, that decision is fairly obvious if you know what you're doing, but with things like Seismitoad, debating between Quaking Punch and Grenade Hammer, and it does require some amount of logic and planning ahead. This deck is definitely, of the ones in the format right now, at least probably the one that rewards planning ahead the most. Trevor arranging his hand in a very strategic way, not allowing Chase to... confusing Chase, really.
Yeah. And I think there's some skill in calculating damage correctly, especially with poison,
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of modifiers, like between Muscle Band, Poison, the Verbank City Gyms, and then these Crobats. Like, it does require a little bit of forethought. And even in just playing them, like you saw Trevor felt confident enough last game to just play out 4, which I don't think is unreasonable, especially given the position Trevor was in, but is something you have to decide because they have very low HP and are just sitting ducks.
Yep. Especially against a mirror, where they can be KO'd by
the abilities
powers,
themselves, absolutely. And there is a laser heads for Chase, which will be nice. If Trevor doesn't wake up here, Chase can get off the first Quaking Punch, which will be important, give Chase an extra turn of using items at least.
Yep. And looks like Trevor doesn't wake up.
Yep, Trevor's going to go ahead, take 30 off the Verbank and start his turn. So this could be big. I mean, we saw last game how many cards that Chase drew that just didn't matter. At one point, he ended for 6, played a basic Pokemon on the bench, and then could not play any of their cards in his hand. Yep. So if Trevor misses the Quaking Punch here and Chase is able to lock him going first, it's going to be a huge advantage. Trevor does get a second Seismitoad out. He could have a Super Scoop Up plus DCE or something to that effect. He does have a Scoop Up. There
Tries
it is.
To slam it.
Flips, and it's a heads.
All right.
Excitedly picks up his Seismitoad.
Does not see a DCE.
No, he has a Sycamore though.
All right.
He'll discard 2 water. Tails off the Hypnotoxic there. And there's a double colorless and the Muscle Band. That a 3. Yeah, okay. Chase cleans up the board a bit. Double Muscle Band.
So the Muscle Band's pretty important here too, since Trevor was actually able to get those down, and now Chase won't be, at least for a long time.
Yeah, Chase does get the first attack in on the Seismitoad, but thankfully Trevor has the Muscle Band, so he'll win that race. 30, and then 50, and then 60, and then 100, so Chase is definitely on the back foot here.
And Trevor also has access to lasers, while Chase does not.
I imagine that Chase does have the DCE on the Seismitoad, so he will be getting the Quaking Punch this turn to lock it up. The advantages Chase has going for him is he does have a Zubat in play, and Trevor doesn't, so he can start that chain.
Yep.
Also, Trevor is down to 5 prizes, which is a disadvantage. Maybe isn't the most relevant in a game where you have Lysanders and you can KO the non-EXs, but is probably somewhat relevant, if only for ends. And there's a retreat, water on the Seismitoad. Chase considered not playing the water, but I think it's fine. If you're not going to get another Seismitoad this turn, you might as well use your energy drop. And you have DCEs in your deck to power up further ones. There's a Getsis. Gonna go ahead and take 2 items. And Getsis isn't actually at its strongest in the mirror here, or actually in the Seismitoad deck, really, because you're just taking items that your opponents can't play anyways, but you're also making their deck just more dense with cards they can't play. So now, we can have a situation where that's just 2 more cards in Chase's deck that he can draw and not be able to play. And there's a 50 Quaking Punch, and there's a Sycamore. 5 cards Chase can't play, but he does have a another Zubat and a Crobat. Yeah. And there's a Quaking Punch.
So we're just going to see these guys smacking each other, not doing a whole lot.
Yeah, that's one of the things, we had this conversation.
Chase's hand is pretty dead.
Yeah, absolutely. We had this conversation in the car yesterday, but how do you feel about Seismitoad? Do you think it's bad for the game?
I think Trainer Lock in general is not great for the game because it tends to be very oppressive, but I think Seismitoad's the best iteration of Trainer Lock we've seen. Since it does have
best as far as most healthy.
More fair, yeah.
Right.
Since it does have the counter and Genesect and Virizion, and its damage output is low-ish, even though 50 and then lasers and Burbank and all that is not negligible, but
you can also interact.
It's not unbeatable.
Yeah, you can also interact with it, unlike
right.
something like Gothitelle or Trevenant, where you can attack and then or Vileplume, which is just a whole other level of just Vileplume Undaunted. Stage 2 played if you played on the bench or at all if it's active either, I guess. No player can play items, so Seismitoad does get the advantage of being one-sided, but the fact that it has relatively low damage output and you have to attack with it definitely does weaken it a bit. I think that it's powerful, but I'm not sure I would use the word oppressive for it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Seismitoad is fine, but
I mean, it's certainly very good, but I don't think anything's wrong with it. And Chase does not draw the double colorless for the Seismitoad. So it's going to be something that happens too, is that soon it's going to be a one-sided item lock. Trevor's going to be able to Quaking Punch. Chase won't be able to use items. Chase will also not be able to respond with Quaking Punch, so Trevor's deck will just work like it was intended. And
yeah, this seems kind of like a who doesn't have energy on Seismitoad first matchup.
Yeah, and we see that Trevor already has the second Seismitoad set up with the Muscle Band. The first Seismitoad is at risk of being knocked out due to some Crobat and Golbat abilities next turn, but I mean, now Trevor's
really
fine to
deal.
just yeah. Trevor, like I said, Trevor already has another one up. He'll even be up one prize if that happens, and he also has cards like Super Scoop Up in his deck. You know.
Yep.
Looks like he's considering playing the laser. Gonna go ahead and take a look through Chase's discard pile. Both players are playing the same deck, if not the exact same 60. So Trevor looking to the discard pile there just to make sure what cards Chase has used, not necessarily to see any surprises.
Discards a hand of supporters and Golbat, Crobat.
Yeah, actually, Trevor has stumbled on getting Zubats and Crobats out,
Yeah.
which has kind of been his one thing. He just played the Zubat as I say that, but it has kind of been the thing that he's behind in.
Yeah, we'll just see a Quaking Punch to KO Zubat.
There's a Seismitoad off the top for Chase, so he will...
Still does not have energy for it. It'll take... Get an N here. A good N. Puts Trevor down to 2. He'll get 6. Hopefully he'll be able to draw the DCE, which will give him a KO on the Seismitoad with Quaking Punch.
Yeah, this is the thing I like to talk about a lot. I think people in games of Pokemon tend to write off the games pretty quickly. I think that there are, because of cards like N, games are definitely never unwinnable, or at least, you know, after I have the last 2 turns. And although Chase is probably not going to win this game, this is how he wins, right? Like, the things that are going right like this, like playing the N, ending Trevor down to 2, having a DCE, like, if Chase is going to win, this is how it's going to work. The unfortunate spot that Chase is in here is that his Quaking Punch will knock out that active Seismitoad, which will make Trevor promote the other one and be able to attack freshly and with more damage. So he'll just win the race again if it comes down to something like that.
And he's also now ahead in the Crobat race, since he has a potential 50 damage over 2 turns. But yeah. And only two prizes left is definitely hard to come back from when you have a Seismitoad powered up as well.
Yeah, definitely, especially when you're at 6 prizes. Like, I think that the way that Chase would win this game is to have Trevor dead draw, and I guess somehow...
If he gets like a double Zerosic or whatever.
Yeah, I think Chase will just need... It's interesting because I think that Chase... The only way that Chase will win the race, as it were... Oh, and Chase actually does an interesting play here. He decides to knock out the Seismitoad with the Crobat, as we're talking about, kind of avoiding that situation of having Trevor's Seismitoad attack it first.
Yep. Very nice. The Crobat also becomes a worthless prize, since Seismitoad is 2 prizes, which would be his final 2 prizes, and Crobat is only 1, you know.
It does kind of prevent Chase, or at least scares Chase of playing another Zubat in this game, since you don't really want 2 non-EXs, but it's not impossible for him to do so, as we saw. He just did. Chase plays the 3rd Toad. Once you have 2 up, the 3rd one's not super relevant.
Just gets an extra card off of Colress too.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't punish you for playing the 3rd one. The only reason you'd be punished for playing the 2nd one is a Lysander trick, but there's already 2 on board, so it doesn't really matter.
We'll see what he draws here. It's just going to Quaking Punch eventually, but yeah, he evens out the Toad race a little bit. Although Trevor's Muscle Band is actually quite important.
Yeah, he'll just, again, if the game just goes to attacks, Trevor will win the race, as it were.
They're just quaking punch each other.
Yeah, it looks like Trevor has Lysander's trump card, Super Scoop Up, and an Unknown in his hand.
Chase will probably have to try to get Grenade Hammer online here.
Yeah, because Trevor can put him up to 100. Chase can attach a water this turn, attach a water next turn, and knock out that Seismitoad. But it will stop Trevor from being under item lock.
Yeah, Chase will be hoping that Trevor can't get another Toad.
Yeah, I mean, if that's how the game works out. Like, if Trevor just his next 4 draws are blanks, and Chase executes the knockout, I mean, Chase could run away with this game.
Yep.
I was like, Chase, considering playing that Jirachi, something I would be weary of, but at the same time, I think it's sort of difficult for Trevor to really surprise knock it out.
I think it's fairly safe to play the Jirachi here.
Also can put him way ahead. What would you get with Jirachi if you played it? Do you go for just like the Juniper heavy draw supporter, or do you go for the N?
I think you go for the N.
Just put him at fewer cards either way.
Yeah. Although I think it depends on whether Chase has a water energy or not, since that's kind of the most important thing right now.
Yeah, we do see at least 1 water left in his deck.
In that case, he may go for the Juniper. Trevor's hand doesn't seem to be too great over the past couple turns.
Yeah, Chase still hasn't.
Or even Zerosic. He seems to be considering that.
Yeah, he pulled a Zerosic and an N to the front. Is kind of debating between those 2 cards. Looks like he's going to decide to take the N.
That seems fine. He's going to play it too. And, 2 cards against a Quaking Punch is not a lot to work with, especially when you need Golbat, Crobat, Water Energy, another Toad.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I mean, this is how Chase wins this game.
Yep.
So he just got the N, drew good cards off of it. Trevor drew blanks. Trevor continued to draw blanks, and now Chase could win this. And Trevor looks like he has unplayables.
Yep.
And there's a 0-6, taking off that band, evening things up.
Yep.
Trevor is actually still going to be ahead in the race, but not by a whole lot. Passes the turn, and there's the Sycamore.
Looks like Trevor did not get a Toad. Which is another 2 Zubats, though.
Drop some Zubats. Has Muscle Band, Ultra Ball, Vertigo, Super Scoop Up in hand. Can't play any of those at the moment.
I'll wax him for another 30.
And this is difficult because it's just coming down to a damage race that I think Trevor will win, as we've said.
Yeah.
130. Even with that Crobat, or sorry, that Golbat, Chase will put Trevor's stats up to 140.
Yeah, Chase really needed that water energy last turn or this turn.
Actually, if Trevor whiffs on getting Golbats out, Chase will pull ahead because he'll put Trevor's Seismitoad to 140 if he plays the Golbat, and then Trevor, assuming he draws and Quaking Punches, will put it to 100. Put Chase it to 160, and then Chase will have the knockout. Oh, I guess Chase will actually need another bat activation there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gonna go ahead and do it because it puts on the Zubat, just trying to.
Yep. No, he has to retreat here.
Yeah, that's smart. Like I said, I don't think he could actively win that race. And now Trevor is out of Quaking Punch Lock. So this will be the turn that Trevor can really start to capitalize on things. And yeah, we have the Muscle Band and the Lysander. That's just going to be game.
That was a good game.
Yeah, Chase did what he had to do. He saw the writing on the wall if he just tried to continue the race. So Chase Moloney dropping to 1-1. Trevor Reed going to 2-0. Playing each other early in this. These tournaments are definitely not where you want to be as best friends, but
yeah, I'd still expect to see both of them in Top Cut.
Yeah, I think that any tournament that Chase and Trevor play, at least any states or regionals, they're probably over 30% to top 8, which doesn't seem like a lot, but I wouldn't put many other players above 10% to top 8 in a given tournament. So pretty good game 3 after a couple of lackluster games 1 and 2. I'm going to go ahead and